Shields up, Iron Breakers. Rurkon here coming at you with another video, and welcome back to Monster Hunter World. And goddamn, did we get some news updates today. In case you guys missed out, earlier this morning we had the Japanese live stream, which essentially detailed a bunch of cool stuff that is hitting the game soon. I know that I missed out on it because I was live streaming late last night, so I was sleeping this morning, and also I don't really understand Japanese, so a lot of the stuff that they talked about was going to go right over my head. Luckily, shortly after that, we had our man Socks come down and actually hold an English version of that particular live stream, telling us all about the changes that are going to be coming to the game and that I will be detailing in this video. So are you ready? Strap your seatbelts, grab your popcorn, whatever the hell you might need, because this shit's about to get started. Before we go over the live stream stuff, I figured I would touch over on something else that I haven't talked about yet on my channel, which is the Devil May Cry crossover, which is looking pretty damn good. And something that really surprised me when it came to watching the particular video for the Devil May Cry crossover was the fact that the weapon that is shown there is actually a charge blade. Like, I'll be honest, if you told me, oh yeah, there's gonna be Devil May Cry crossover, all this other stuff, my initial thoughts in terms of what the weapon was going to be would definitely go straight for longsword or even greatsword. But being a charge blade is actually really cool. Now, I'm not a big Devil May Cry buff. Like, I really like the DMC, and I also like some of the other Devil May Cry games, but I haven't played them all that much, so I don't know the exact names of the weapons, but I was Googling it up. And apparently the base form of the weapon is going to be the Force Edge, and once you actually transform it into Axe mode, it goes into Alistor, which, again, two weapons that I really don't know that much about. But the interesting part is that there is no shield. So essentially he's got like this red aura thing on his hand, which I'm led to believe is called the Royal Guard, and you'll be able to block using that, and it's going to do like animations for charging up the charge blade and stuff. It just looks really cool. Just the fact that there's a charge blade without a shield, for one side, it's blasphemous because shields are amazing, but on the other side, it is also a really creative use of a weapon, in my opinion, and the way that it looks, and particularly because it really suits the style of Dante really well. Another really cool thing about the Devil May Cry crossover is the fact that the armor, it appears that it was confirmed on the Japanese live stream, the armor is not a suit like Aloy's and Ryu's, which essentially you equip it and it will equip the entire set and there's nothing you can do about it. This one is actually going to be a proper armor set, and you will be able to equip different parts. So like you can just get the coat if you want to, or you can just get the parts that have skills that you want to use, which is really, really cool because, I mean, let's face it, anyone who's min-maxing isn't really going to be using Aloy's set or Ryu's set because the stats are just not that great. Moving right along, let's go ahead and tackle the Murder Pickle. Devil Joe himself is going to be joining the game on the 22nd of March. He will be able to invade your quests very much like the B-52 bomber. So as soon as you finish the mysterious Rathian questline, you can expect to be seeing him showing up unannounced and completely wrecking your day, very much like the B-52 bomber liked to wreck your day repeatedly. And to be completely honest, I'm excited about it because I want to fight a new monster, which is, I think, is going to be good times. Now, a couple of interesting tidbits about him. For those of you that do not know, he's going to be having Dragon Blight, and he's going to deal dragon damage. If you don't know what Dragon Blight is, maybe you haven't fought the final boss of the game yet, but there's that one thing that he does where he puts his paws through the ground, then you hear the big explosion, and if you're close by when that happens, you get afflicted by Dragon Blight, which essentially what that means is it's going to negate your element for your weapon, which is going to be somewhat frustrating, and naturally I expect him to also deal dragon damage. He is pretty much a roid rage jacked up beast, and he can actually pick up other monsters and hit you with them. It's like that joke where it's like, have you ever been so upset that you decided to hit a motherfucker with another motherfucker? That's essentially what Devil Joe is going to be doing. Like, there's footage of him wailing on hunters with a great Jagras, which looks pretty damn cool to me if I'm being completely honest. Basically, he's constantly starving, so he's going to need to eat non-stop, which is why he just eats everything. As a matter of fact, if you chop up his tail, he's probably going to eat that too, so keep that in mind. The other cool thing is that he's got a turf war with Basilgoose, and if the live stream is anything to go by, it looks like the Basilgoose actually wins the turf war against the Devil Joe, which is pretty damn impressive because, I mean, Devil Joe's supposed to be this beast and all that, and apparently the B-52 bomber can still go up against him toe-to-toe and beat his face. And then again, he can also fly, which is kind of unfair, but hey, that's the way it is. Another interesting tidbit that came out of that live stream is that apparently Devil Joe can attack you even if you pitfall trap him. Talk about a friggin' roid rage beast. Now naturally, with the new monster being added into the ecosystem, I can already tell what your questions are going to be. Can I chop up his bits and make cool armors and weapons? And the answer is yes, on both accounts. They're going to be adding the Vangus Alpha and Beta armor sets, which are essentially the Devil Joe armor set, and every single weapon type is going to have a Devil Joe tree, so you will be able to craft a Devil Joe weapon for whatever type of weapon you happen to be using. This was confirmed by Sox during the EU live stream, so if it turns out to be a lie, Sox, it's on you, just letting you know. But the news doesn't end there. From April 6th to April 20th, there's going to be a special event called Astera Blossom Festival, which is essentially a representation of the fact that in Japan during that time it is going to be cherry blossom season, which makes it so that a lot of places in Japan look really beautiful. And therefore they decided to celebrate that in-game through this festival, and essentially they're going to be redecorating the Gathering Hub to celebrate spring. Even the NPCs will be donning festive outfits for the occasion, and a really cool thing about this is that apparently all of the previous events are going to be available. I mean, at least I've heard from multiple sources that all the previous events would be available, so like the Aloy event, the Ryu event, the Shadow Shades event, which is going on right now, the Wiggler Head event, which went on the last week. All of those are going to be available. However, I did notice that in the particular slide where they talk about that, they say some exceptions may apply, so maybe not exactly all of the events are going to show up. We don't know, but most people were saying yes, all of the events are going to be available. Another cool thing is that all of the lucky vouchers are going to be increased to 2 per login bonus, and that is pretty damn sweet. Another thing they showed was the custom greatsword, which is essentially from the design a weapon contest that they held, and it is a really cool looking greatsword. It's got like jets on the back of it so that whenever you charge, the jets would actually propel the sword forward, and it looks really, really cool. I'm not a greatsword user, but this particular weapon kind of makes me want to dabble into that greatsword because it just looks so damn amazing. And that particular weapon, the quest that you will have to do in order to get the tickets or whatever materials you're going to need in order to craft it, is also going to be available during the Astera Blossom Festival, if I actually read the slide right, which I'm not sure if I did because I just used Google Translate, so hopefully I got that right. The 13th of April is also going to be an important date because that is when the Mega Man collaboration goes live. You guys might have seen the little Mega Man outfit for your Palico in previous trailers. On the 13th of April, that is when that particular quest goes live, and you will apparently have to fight off against 2 Odogarons. One of them is going to be pretty damn tiny and actually made me feel sorry for the poor little doggo as he was getting abused by 4 hunters. It's just not fair. It was a tiny little doggo. But anyway, once you actually complete that quest, probably a couple of times, you will then be able to craft the Mega Man outfit for your Palico, which actually looks pretty cool. Even if completely out of place in this particular Monster Hunter, it still looks really cool, particularly if you are a fan of Mega Man. You will most likely want to make sure that you prepare to play the game on the 13th so that you can go ahead and craft that armor set for your Palico. But then, probably the most important thing of all, and I haven't really seen a lot of people talk about this, is the fact that one of the hunters during that hunt for the Mega Man outfit, he was using the Admiral's haircut. Now, if you guys have been on my live streams, you guys know from the second that I've seen that Admiral haircut, I want that for my character. And apparently, that is going to be a thing. Whether that is going to be free or paid for, I probably am going to assume that it is going to be paid for. And as a matter of fact, while we're talking about cosmetic options, I might as well address the fact that they're going to be giving everyone, I believe it is on the 16th of March, they're going to be giving everyone a voucher that is going to allow you to change your character. You can change anything from the gender to, I don't know, your face. Anything that you want to change, you can change. I mean, normally you're able to change your haircut and like the markings on your face, but this is like a complete makeover so that you can change whatever you want. And I believe that after you use that one, if you want to change your character again, you're probably going to have to purchase a voucher on the store in order to change your character some more. Again, for the cosmetic stuff, it looks like they're going to be going the paid route, which, you know, it's one of those things. I mean, I've already gotten over 400 hours out of the base game. So anything I get beyond that is a bonus, and we're still going to get Devil Joe for free. So I'm going to go ahead and advocate in favor of them. Look, just do the cosmetic stuff if you want to through microtransactions and whatever. Go wild. Just don't bring any of it that shifts balance in game, which doesn't look like they're going to. And that's pretty cool. On the topic for that, they're also adding a couple of new gestures that you will be able to purchase. And I'm feeling the itch. I gotta be honest. I've been feeling the itch for a while. I want to maybe get that Hadouken, maybe get that Shoryuken, because it looks pretty cool to just do that, and you don't even have to be in the Ryu outfit. You can just do it whenever, so that looks like some fun stuff, and I might eventually go ahead and buy those as well. And finally, they've announced a bunch of weapon changes that are going to be hitting the game at around that same March 22nd time, which I'm really excited for a lot of these changes, but let's go over all of them, shall we? So let's get this started with the Greatsword. As you guys can see, we got damage increases on both Charge Slash as well as Strong Charge Slash. For those of you that are not familiar with the Greatsword, these are essentially attacks that are performed in succession. They are charge attacks, therefore the 2 and 3 signify the level of the charge of that specific attack. And what happened was, since these attacks are performed in succession, so you go Charge Slash, Strong Charge Slash, and then True Charge Slash, naturally the True Charged Slash is the most effective one, the one that deals the most damage. So most players were essentially skipping through the first 2 attacks in order to get to that final attack to perform it. And what this appears to be doing is to incentivize players to actually use the charged attacks that come before the third charged attack. And in my opinion, it's a good thing. Give players a little bit more variety so that Greatsword does not, boil down to just, charge it all the way up the True Charge Slash and let loose. Next up, we have the Longsword, which is going to bring a lot of quality of life changes to Foresight Slash, essentially making it easier for you to do Foresight Slash. And I know there's going to be some elitists out there that are going to be like, friggin' scrubs, man, I mastered Foresight Slash the way it was. I didn't need this time to Windows successfully trigger increased hitbox and friggin' damage hitbox and increasing the angle that I can control the direction of my attack. I didn't need that. And it's like, look, you guys, just chill. I'm pretty sure they're still going to make it somewhat challenging for you to do Foresight Slash. I don't think it's going to become like a super easy thing to pull off. Anyways, the other thing that they changed was the Spirit Helm Breaker, which apparently there is a bug where you can get knocked off if you start doing your Helm Breaker, and then midway through that, maybe a monster will roar. I think I've had that happen to me, or maybe they will perform a hit on you or something. Now it looks like you're going to be immune to knockbacks when you land the Spirit Helm Breaker, and then only when you hit the ground will they be able to knock you back. As far as I'm concerned, that's a pretty good change, because it goes right in line with something else that they changed for the Switch Axe, but we'll get there in a minute. Sword and Shield is going to be seeing damage increase in Round Slash, which is the third hit on the circle combo. And then you'll also be able to use Wedge Beetles with the weapon drawn. Now, Wedge Beetles with the weapon drawn is major. It is super important. And I was always blown away, like, what? How can I use my slinger, shoot stuff, but yet I can't use Wedge Beetles? I think this was just something they overlooked in the first draft of the Sword and Shield. And now they're like, yeah, we need to bring this in line with the rest of the kit for this weapon. And here's the Wedge Beetle stuff now, which makes a lot of sense. For those of you who don't know, Wedge Beetles is the stuff where you can use as a grappling point, and it's pretty damn cool if you're able to do that without even putting your weapon away, even though with Sword and Shield you can put your weapon away pretty fast. But sometimes you can just do that even faster by just like, look, I'll just aim upwards, boom, use my slinger, go up there, and then perform a jumping attack or something. That, to me, is a major change. The Round Slash change, it's whatever. It's not really a big deal. Hammer users will be pleased to know that 3 of your attacks have had their stun values increased. We're talking about the Charge Upswing, as well as the Charge Brutal Upswing, and the Charge Big Bang. All of those now have additional stun values. So you guys know what the deal is. You keep putting that hammer to the monster's face until it goes down, and continue to apply hammer to face after the monster goes down. Good times. Hunting Horn users will also be pleased to know that they're basically going to get an attack damage increase, just like a flat damage increase, because everyone that uses a hunting horn is going to be playing the self-improvement melody, period. It's just a fact. And then on top of it, whenever you had a chance, and probably always, you're going to also be encoring the self-improvement melody. Well, now you're just going to get additional attack on top of everything else that you're getting with the self-improvement, which again just goes to show to people, look, this is not just a support weapon. This weapon smashes monster face. And now we get to my baby girl, the gun lance. The very first thing that they mention here is shelling. Damage parameters increase when sharpness is yellow or worse. What I read from this is that essentially you're not going to be penalized as hard whenever you are shelling and your sharpness is in the yellow, which is something that you shouldn't be doing in the first place, but the fact that they're reducing the penalty doesn't really make that much of a difference to me, but I guess maybe some players are struggling a little bit with the gun lance. Basically, it seems to incentivize shelling a little bit more. Anyway, then sharpness loss alleviated for all Worm Stake Cannon and Wyvern's Fire attacks. This is super important because right now a lot of players who use gun lances and are actually super meta, they're not even going to use Wyvern's Fire because it's so underpowered, and the amount of sharpness that you lose from it, it's just insane. Like, I know that I use Wyvern's Fire and mostly I do it for fun because I know that it is not my most effective attack, not by a long shot. And then you also have Worm Stake Cannon, damage increase. Thank you. I wanted more reason to use Worm Stake Cannon because it's just not that powerful. And Wyvern's Fire damage increased as well. Thank you, because I'm tired of being humiliated by the Wyvern Blast and the heavy bowguns and the light bowguns that actually deals more damage than where the skill came from, Wyvern's Fire. So thank you for hopefully bringing that damage in line. Good stuff. Switch Axe comes in with some nice quality of life changes as well. As you guys can see right here, the Zero Sum Discharge now has level 4 earplugs effects during use, which, if you guys remember, when I did my Switch Axe build, one of the things that I definitely did was to get level 5 earplugs. Now, I still recommend getting at least one earplugs jewel even after this change, just so that when you are doing Zero Sum Discharge, which if you don't know what that is, it's that move where you actually mount the monster and jam your Switch Axe inside the monster and then do the explosion thing. That's the Zero Sum Discharge. I still advise you guys to get at least one earplugs jewel in there because certain monsters will still be able to roar you off even if you have level 4 earplugs, so keep that in mind. Another thing is that it is now possible to chain the beginning of sword jumping element discharge into Zero Sum Discharge, so this is basically going to make the combos into performing a smoother transition that allows you to do Zero Sum Discharge, which is greatly appreciated because I did notice that sometimes after certain movements I'd be like, the hell, I'm trying to do Zero Sum Discharge, it's not going there, so that's good. Then we also have a damage increase on the Zero Sum Discharge finisher. And the reason this is important is because you want people to actually do this, whereas there's been, I believe, a lot of Switch Axe players that don't even do Zero Sum Discharge. They just go straight up for attack with the amped state. Then we also have the fact that the mounted discharge finisher no longer causes sharpness loss, because this is a problem because when you actually mount a monster, the finisher for the Switch Axe, it actually consumes quite a bit of sharpness. So the fact that that sharpness is no longer gone and good because it means people can actually mount more often if they want to. And finally, this one is very weird for me because it says here, Zero Sum Discharge bug fix. After use, you should now properly be immune to knockback until you land on the ground. So that was actually a bug? So like the times that, for instance, I will mount a monster and the monster does like an attack move and I will be knocked out of that mount. I mean mount by Zero Sum Discharge. And the monster does an attack move and I get dismounted, I get pulled off of Zero Sum Discharge. That was a bug? Because if that was a bug, that's good. Because I actually experimented with flinch free to see if I could stay in the monster even during those attacks. And I couldn't. I would get knocked off the second the monster would do anything that would be mildly threatening. But if that was a bug, good. That means Zero Sum Discharge is actually a lot more viable once they do this change. So just massive quality of life changes for Zero Sum Discharge, which is a really powerful attack and one of my favorite things to do on Switch Axe. And also means that I'm going to have to update my Switch Axe set because we're probably not going to be needing level 4 earplugs anymore. Good on them. Now, when it comes to the Charge Blade, you know that they need to do some balancing around it because everyone is just using the Tyrannus Charge Blade and they don't even bother with any of the other Charge Blades because they're just way weaker. And these changes are here to bring the power element files back in line, and I am actually super excited to playing Charge Blade again because of the changes that they've done here. So let's take a look at the first one. Attack power increases from effects other than that of the artillery skill for the explosions on impact files were adjusted. So we're talking about your attack boosts, your agitators, your peak performance, anything that affects your attack is not going to be affecting impact files as much as it previously did, thus bringing the damage of impact files a little bit more in line with the damage from elemental files, which is good stuff. Then we got Axe, super amped element discharge, stun values decreased for impact files. Now, this is a much needed change. I remember the first time that I used the Tyrannus Charge Blade on a friggin' Anjanath. Like, dude, I broke every single bone in his body and he instantly keeled over off to the side. It was ridiculous. It was way too powerful, and don't tell me it wasn't. And then we got file stun values increased for all other attacks other than Axe Super Amped Elemental Discharge, which means you can still stun by charging your sword and going at it with sword attacks, but you're not going to get as much benefit as you were previously getting with the Super Amped Elemental Discharge, which was what the build that I did. You guys remember Thud on the Table? That particular build? That's all it was about. Get the friggin' charge files and then Super Amped Elemental Discharge. That is not going to be as strong of a playstyle. It is still going to be viable, but it is not going to be as overpowered as it was. At least in my opinion, it was overpowered. You guys feel free to disagree with me. And then we have something very important here. Elemental values increased for all attack files. Yes! Bring that elemental playstyle back in line, baby! And then we have even better. This one is a massive change. Super Amped Elemental Discharge. For the power element file explosions, they're going to be spaced closer together to make them easier to hit. Now, if I'm reading this correctly, since it only mentions power element files, it means that the spread on the Super Amped Elemental Discharge, for those of you who have seen it, the lightning that comes after the big hit, the spread of that is going to remain the same for impact files, which means they're still going to be spread out over a wide area, whereas with the element file explosions, they're going to be spaced closer together, making it easier for you to actually hit all of those elemental file explosions, which again gives you a little bit of variety because impact files, I believe, are still going to be dealing a lot of damage. Not as much damage as they're dealing right now, but still more damage than element files. However, you're going to be able to land more element files because they're going to be spaced closer together. So again, it's a different playstyle, and that's exactly what we needed for the Charge Blade, in my opinion. I'm saying this as someone that also plays Charge Blade, okay? It needed to be adjusted. The Tyrannus was just way too powerful. Don't tell me it wasn't. And then we have the Insect Glaive, which also received some pretty sweet quality of life changes. I know for a fact that one of my friends that mains Insect Glaive is super excited about these changes, so let's go over them. Improved the effect of attack power increase for red and white, as well as red, white, and orange extract hybrid effects. What does this mean? Well, you have the 3 buffs for the Insect Glaive, and a lot of times people would just get the red buff because it increases your attack and it also changes the way that you perform your attack animations. So it is one of the it is the most important buff to get. And a lot of times people would just get the red buff and not even bother getting the other ones and just go straight on to attack the monster. Well, now you're going to receive more incentive to actually collect the other buffs because they're going to give you even more attack power. Okay, then you also have extract effect times increased overall. That means that your buffs are going to last longer, which means more time of you smashing the monster in the face, less time of you throwing out your Kinsect to collect the buffs. And then finally, extract effect times no longer decrease when mounting a monster. So if you mounted a monster as an Insect Glaive user, a lot of the times you would be wasting your buff times because you would collect the buffs, then you would start attacking, and then you would mount. And if you mount, your buffs would still be ticking down. That's not going to happen anymore. Whenever you mount, your buffs are going to go on pause, and therefore you will keep the duration of your buffs so that when you dismount, you can immediately smash monster face again. Whereas sometimes after you dismounted, you would then have to go about collecting your buffs again. So really good quality of life changes for the Insect Glaive. As someone who just recently started diving deep into lance play, I gotta say, this is such a major quality of life change that most people won't even understand why this is so important. But essentially, here's the thing. Counterthrust, temporary knockback negation during a successful counterthrust. You guys are like, what the frack does that even mean? Okay, here's the deal. Several attacks that monsters do have multiple hits. It's not just one hit. And the counter can only counter one hit for a monster. So what's going to happen is if that attack has 2 hits and you successfully counter it, you're still going to get hit, you're still going to get knocked back, you're still going to fall to the ground, even though you performed a successful counter. However, once this comes into play, if you perform the successful counter, you will counter the first hit, you'll take damage from the second hit, but you're not going to get knocked back, and you can go right into your combo. And that is pretty friggin' major for any lance user who's ever been in situations that I've already been, and I've only recently started using lance, where you just block something and you're like, oh yeah, I performed the perfect counter, and I still got knocked back. That fucking sucks. That's not going to happen anymore come March 22nd. Now with the dual blades, they're going to be making the demon gauge a little bit easier to maintain by essentially allowing with that when you're in demon mode and you perform Demon Flurry Rush, which is the circle attack where your character just kind of spins around and moves in a certain direction, that is now going to generate demon gauge because in the current build of the game, it is not generating demon gauge. However, I am a little bit confused because it says can now be increased by demon mode round slashes, and I'm pretty sure the round slashes are generating demon gauge. So is it going to increase the amount of demon gauge they're generating? Because I tested this after the live stream and I was like, the round slashes are definitely generating demon gauge, so I don't know why they get mentioned here, but whatever. And then there was also a bug where apparently you could not cancel out of demon mode when transitioning from a demon dodge, but they're going to be fixing that. That's not really a big thing, but the whole Demon Flurry Rush now generating demon gauge just kind of feels like that might have been a move they either forgot that was in there and they just did not make that move generate demon gauge, but I thought that it actually did. But when they mentioned it on this slide, I had to go and check, and I was like, this doesn't generate demon gauge? What? But yeah, it's just a little bit of a tweak to dual blades, nothing too massive. The bow is just going to get a couple of bug fixes, so no real changes there. And to be completely honest, the bow is just so damn powerful that I don't really know that it needs any changes. If anything, it might even need a slight nerf, but I don't know. That's just one man's opinion. Either way, the bug fixes are Dashing Shot. It fixed the bug where apparently the spread/power shot skill effect was being applied twice. I don't really know if that was the case with me, even though I do have spread and power shot skill effect. I can't really tell whether or not this was being applied twice. And then you got Dragon Piercer. It fixed the bug where you could shoot past the attack's angle limitations. This was the glitch that you had, where if you pressed L2, you could actually go ahead and shoot backwards with Dragon Piercer. Clearly that was not intended, which is also one of the reasons why I never really bothered mastering that particular skill, because like eventually they're gonna fix it, and there you go, March 22nd, they're gonna fix it. Now, when it comes to the heavy bowgun and the light bowgun, we're not really seeing any changes there because recently we already had a patch that went over bringing some of the ammunition types in line because the slicing ammo was way too powerful. They brought that in line and buffed all of the other ammo types. So, you know, there's really not much to do there. And then finally, they're doing a couple of more feature changes. They're going to be optimizing the data processing to reduce loading times, which is always welcome. Whenever anyone says, hey, you're going to have less loading times, everybody's happy. Then they also added a text size setting for changing the subtitles text size. I wasn't really aware that that was a problem, but I guess, you know, different people, different eyesights, makes sense. Then we have Return to Gathering Hub in single player, as well as this Band and Return to Gathering Hub in multiplayer for your options as to when you finish your quests. And this is major because it is going to be sending players back to the Gathering Hub after they've quested together, because right now, Gathering Hub is kind of like a ghost town. Even if your lobby is full, not a lot of people actually go to the Gathering Hub unless they have to do arena quests or something like that. But there is still a major problem with the Gathering Hub option, and that is the fact that there is no NPC in there to actually manage your crops. And that is a problem if, like me, you are running 4 fertilizers at the same time in order to get maximum gains from your botanical research center. I mean, if you spend too many quests in the Gathering Hub and you kind of lose track of how many quests you've done, you're going to lose the effect on your fertilizer. So they need to either add an NPC up there that allows you to go ahead and manage that stuff from the Gathering Hub, or at the very least, they need to let me go down to the elf and tell them, look, automatically apply the fertile soil whenever it's about to run out, okay? Just do it automatically so that I don't have to keep coming back down here and applying it manually. So one of those two things needs to happen for me to actually take the Gathering Hub seriously. Otherwise, I'm losing resources over the fact that I want to stay up there and socialize with my friends. It's kind of like it's a bit of a problem for me. And finally, attacks from allies no longer interrupt you during the carving animation. Additionally, players are now immune to all hit reactions, including bombs, during carving animations after quest completion. And this is a very important feature because apparently there's a bunch of fucking assholes out there that are basically preventing people from getting their carves at the end of a hunt. Look, I don't care what your degree of skill is. I don't care if you think that you carried the hunt. Shit, I don't care if you suck during the whole hunt. Everybody gets their carves unless it's a goddamn leecher, but then again, come on guys, don't leech quests, that's just lame. Like, put in some goddamn effort, please, for crying out loud. But yeah, it really sucks that they needed to do this. Like, it's a good feature, no, don't get me wrong, but it sucks that they felt the need to do it. That means that there were actually so many people trolling other people out of their carves that it's just completely ridiculous. Like, seriously people, come on. Help each other out. Don't be trolls to this level. Like, troll constructively. Don't troll in a way that you're actually making someone else's experience worse. And that's pretty much all there is to it. At least it is all of the stuff that I was able to get out of these live streams. Did I miss anything? Maybe some of you guys actually know Japanese out there, and you might have picked up on some tidbits that I might have missed on. And if you did, make sure to leave that in the comment section below so that everybody gets informed on the stuff that you guys picked up on that I didn't. Thank you guys very much for watching this video. I know that this is a bit of a longer one here, but there was a lot of stuff to tackle, and I am super excited for the upcoming content in Monster Hunter World because, I mean, I'm just surprised they're going so balls deep into this. But then again, this turned out to be one of Capcom's biggest hits of all times, so I guess it is to be expected quite a bit more of support on this particular game. So good times for all you hunters out there. Pick up your weapons of choice, get hunting. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.